Well, good morning, everyone, Mr. President, fellow Rotarians, and thank you very much for that overhyped introduction. Yes, yeah. I wasn't too sure where to come today, but I spotted a lady with some big pink ears over there walking towards this way, and I thought, well, I don't know whether this is Rotary or not, but it's going to be interesting if it's not. So well done. Look, let me say, pink morning tea, very important. We used to hold a big morning tea prior to COVID for pink breast cancer awareness. We sadly lost one of our staff members to this terrible disease during COVID, the first lockdown. But we've had tremendous support for that cause for many, many years, and a very worthy one too. We've had a long association with Rotary in Panmure Bridge, mainly due to Sylvie and the people from Pakuranga. We had a very successful reading program running prior to COVID, and this was also supported in many ways by other ventures, some financial, but a lot of friendship, a lot of great relationships were built on, and still are around, and just in a slightly different format, through our association with Rotary, and I think that's wonderful. Sylvie said talk for 20 minutes about anything you like, and I thought, oh yes, I'm glad someone mentioned the budget. I thought, do I need to actually talk to you about that? Probably not. You've gone and processed that. I will say one thing that came out, that Grant Robinson is talking about changing the decile label. That is not new, by the way. That has been in the pipe works for about 3 years. So while it's presented as something new out of the can, it is not. I do think, and I'm not defending the man, but I do think it's a good thing. The history of the decile system is sort of good intentions gone wrong. If you go back to tomorrow's schools, it was a simple device, a very crude device, to level the playing field between rich and poor communities. And it was a good shot back then, but that was sort of 25 years ago, if not longer. And it was never intended to get into the public arena. Now, I don't know whether I'm going to offend anyone from the real estate business here, but partly they're to blame, because they used it as a marketing tool for houses. And it became, Decile 1 became synonymous with failure. And in many cases it was. I could tell you a lot of Decile 10 schools that have gone through some very interesting times in my career. So it's been a bit unfair. It's time for a revamp. The mechanisms to do this better and more successfully and more targeted, I think, are there. And hopefully we'll get more money. How bad is that? So, and by the way, to be fair, I think all schools are underfunded, no matter what decile you are. It's a money-hungry game, and getting increasingly so. So I won't talk about the budget anymore, so there we are. So Sylvie said, look, why don't you just talk a bit about your school and what you've done in the last few years? And I said, okay, this is a bit of a ramble. And she said, I must make it last 20 minutes, so yeah. If you start to nod off, I'll know that 20 minutes is either expired or I should stop at 10. I've been a principal for, well, I'm in the end of my career, towards the end of my career. If the bank manager lets me, I'm looking forward to retirement at some stage. It's a wonderful place to be. You know enough to ignore the idiots and to go along and follow the good people. You're really comfortable in your job because you've seen an awful lot. People expect you to be grumpy, so you can be, and that's good. And then your eccentricities are accepted, and you can do all these wacky things and try things out. And everyone just thinks, oh, he's old. He's just, soon he will retire, and we'll get someone new and fresh. I'm very happy in this place. It suits me just fine at the moment. But it was, in the recent years, it has actually been a great asset to, and I think anyone that was in leadership that's new to leadership, whether it be in education or construction or business, has had some real challenges. and I've certainly felt the experience that I've had has helped me greatly. We also have, with time, you get to employ people and keep people that you like and they're good for you. And I do not claim to have got through the last few years by myself. We have an excellent management team. I'm supported very well with three very strong ladies. They don't always agree with me, which is good and possibly what I need. But they can certainly help ease the burden and do fantastic work. We've also got some really wonderful staff, which we've got a base of long-standing staff members, and we've got some new ones and young ones, as we should in a healthy environment. When you get older, you can say things to people that you probably shouldn't but when we employ people now, we say, look, this mightn't be the school for you after a while. I don't mind. It is what it is. And if you're a fit here, you stay. Not that I can fire them, but that's come back to bite me recently. We've had the shortest employment career in our history, 36 hours. My DP was in the room there, her jaw dropped, and this person said they wanted out. I said, what a wonderful, I care about you immensely and your well-being. Just go. Oh, I'd like to work out the day. Don't worry, I'll pay you for it. It's easy, it's cheap. So staff are really important, and all through this time, one of the mantras we've had is look after your staff. Everyone talks about looking after the children. If you do not look after your staff, there will be no one to look after the children. And I can't do it alone. And we've tried all sorts of things to keep staff happy and healthy. One of the big things out of all this term, which I don't really like and I haven't really got my head around it, is well-being. And look, there are some genuine hardships in education and in schools. I get that, and there are families that have struggled. How you went through these lockdowns in these last 2 years depended very much on what your environment was in. If you're in a little state house and it's cold and you've lost jobs or you don't have employment and your transportation is not there, and there's 10 of you living in this house, this is not a good environment. This is hard. And that has had an effect on some children. I get that. I think, though I'm not from secondary, I think the people I feel the hardest felt for are the secondary school pupils. Very high stakes game many of them are playing for in exams and so forth. But things that you look forward to at secondary school that have disappeared. Many go back for sports. The year 11, 12, 13 is there, you come to school because you're in the first 15 or playing netball, and that has disappeared. The school ball, which is that rite of passage that young people go through, has disappeared. So I feel very sorry for them. Primary school's a little bit different. A little bit about our school. We're in Panmure, we've in about our 70th year, maybe a bit more. Opened at 57, so do the maths. We have a roll of about 250 students, which is quite volatile because of the housing changes in the area. We're Decile 1, we're Decile 1A, which is the very, very bottom. But apart from actually writing pleading letters to various organisations and ministries, feeling sorry for themselves, I've never fell into that deficit model. We have got some very bright and very able children. We have got some lovely children. We have some difficult children and some difficult families and some difficult issues. All schools have these. They just come in different shapes and forms. And ours are more in your face. And the good thing about that is you can have some very blunt conversations with children and parents, and they get it. And they change sometimes, and they do good things. So it's whatever environment you're in, you have got issues to deal with. I've always taught in low decile schools, I sort of believe that these children need the best, and we've aimed to give them the best we can, both in environment and most definitely with our teachers. I'm working with some people that are the best I've ever met in my career, and they are doing fantastic things. So we went into lockdown, and that first one, if you remember back, because it seems like eons ago, our school was really well set up for this, because we've been part of a group of schools called, we go under the name of Manaia Kalani. It's got a digital footprint that's as bigger than Texas, but so you'll find it easily on the internet. We went on a philosophy of digital education. So one child, one Chromebook, one netbook, and our pedagogy, our way of teaching, revolves around that. Before you say, you know, what about all the other things? We do all the other things as well. This is just a game breaker. Over time, and it's well researched for the last 15 years, we've seen dramatic improvement in boys' learning, especially with writing. Unheard of. For some reason, that is the hook, that is the device that actually gets them motivated to learn and write. So about 15 years ago, we set up our own network in our Tamaki area. It cost a lot of money at the time. We've set up a trust, and the trust has sort the money. So everywhere around the area you find on top of power poles, and this was an amazing venture in itself because it involved getting a lot of organisations who are not easy to talk to help us, but we've got these little boxes with aerials so that there is a free digital network in Tamaki for all our students to use. So come lockdown, we didn't have to particularly shift into this home learning, or hybrid learning as the new fashion term is. It wasn't hard. We were already there. We didn't realise it. We never built this with that intent, but we had a connection to families through the Chromebooks, and we could modify lessons and so forth and get it out there. We felt pretty chuffed about this. We've been telling government about the need of this for many years. So if you remember the government, and look, I think there are a lot of good people there in these bureaucracies that try really hard, and I certainly think during these times some ministry people have pulled out all the stops and endeavoured to do great things. But we had this, and government was trying to then send out Chromebooks to people and give them little vouchers to do this and that. The solution is that 2.5 years on, government has done nothing to improve this equity of connection with students and devices. Our parents pay, it's rent to own, $4 I think roughly at the moment, over 3 years to own their Chromebook. This is something I think, this is no different than exercise books and a whole lot of things that schools require now of students, and I think government should be paying for it, or paying for these connections. They've been very, very slow on it. So the solution is there. We've had it. So we got into teaching online, and that went quite well. Bit of modification. Teachers learned as they went. We found that students, got into the swing of it. It was a bit of a novelty to start with, to be honest. But it brought up some horrendous moments in my life. First of all, we'd gone into a pandemic, and I thought, gee, I meant to have a pandemic plan for this. This is one of those things that Aero come around and look, scuttling around. Yeah, we had it. Oh, look, it almost works. Where did I copy this from? So that was one good thing. But one of my big worries was, how do we keep a school as a school? We've got everyone out there. Now, a school, even in normal time, is a whole lot of little disjoint units, classrooms we call them. We've got to bring those together at least once a week. Fridays, assemblies are sacrosanct. I'm going back. I'm changing my tie, by the way, because I don't know whether the kids will understand this. The assembly is a really key part of each week. Think back to your own schooling, especially secondary schools. I mean, some of them were goddamn boring. I went to Auckland Grammar. Cold, miserable hall with very hard seats. It hasn't changed. But we have to have a school assembly. We celebrate our successes. We cry sometimes when there's sad moments, and we share our learning and everything. How do you do that in lockdown? So this was a little issue. We put our heads together because I wanted to make sure that when we came back, we were still a school. I didn't want to rebuild a school as an entity. And so we decided we'd do assembly online. I didn't know what I'd opened up. So we needed a set. So I went out to the garage and I thought, I'll take the mickey out of our Prime Minister and what's his name, Bloomfield. And I built a podium just like that one you see in the beehive. And we had a set in the back of my hall at home for me to stand up and do assembly. So this was quite fun, yeah. And it was really a bit of a take on it all, but an irreverent one. But and then we had to give it a name, so we called it Ironing Board Productions because, like every theatrical group, you've got to have some strange name. And it was because I put the computer on an ironing board because it was the only device I could find at home. It went up and down. We had myself and Epsom doing this. We had my DP in Mount Wellington producing, coordinating and doing all the techie stuff. And we had one of my staff members in Only Hunger playing guitar and doing this. It was a nightmare. I hate the camera. And it was basically not a proper camera. It was doing it off a computer camera. And I was sort of looking down at this little postage stamp of me trying to figure out, am I still in set or not? Most stressful moments I think I've ever had. And this was just the first one. There was more to come. Well, scary, and I'll never diss the presenters on TV or Seven Sharp, this scary was that I started to get a fan club. Who would have thought parents would take the time to do it? There was nothing else. And we did these crossovers and so forth. It was highly successful. It's run for every lockdown, and some that we did at school in our school theatre, which was a bit easier. But it served a purpose, but not something I ever want to repeat, not something I ever enjoyed. Friday's live stream was just a nerve-wracking event. What have I got else to tell you here? Just see how we're going for time. That's good. Coming back to school. Yeah, we had to get back to school and get kids motivated, and that was towards the end of last year. Best 5 weeks I've ever taught and seen in teaching for years. We gave our teachers free rein, basically. You had to operate in this thing called bubble school. You might have heard the term. Somewhere in Wellington, and if you think back to Monty Python, the Ministry of Silly Ideas, there came this idea about running schools with bubbles. That this table here couldn't talk to this table or be with this table, and you couldn't obviously. So we set up bubbles. It was a major piece of organisation because they had to have separate playgrounds and separate toilets and everything. No one had actually cottoned on to the fact that at 3 o'clock they all went out the same gate and mixed. But boys all went up to the local dairy and shared their Chelsea bun and fizz and passed the bottle around. But I felt obliged to do the right thing because if something bad happened, I was probably going to do it. So we had bubble school. We had to communicate. So in school we have little walkie-talkies. And so we gave each bubble them. And the conversations were hilarious. The Office. I just used to listen to The Office, the radio traffic. This is The Office. I'm looking for yellow bubble. Blue bubble here. What are you looking for? Yellow bubble. No, they're down there. No, that's purple bubble. It was hilarious. I don't know whether some staff I think were taking of it. But we got kids doing great things. And the art and the excitement and going for walks. Now, we'd had children back at school prior to this under what they call the essential workers. And we had a lovely little group of 6 children. We thought, oh gosh, you can't keep them in the classroom all day, so we'll take them for walks. Well, little legs don't walk very fast, and we do. So we thought I've got to even the playing field here, so I went and bought them all scooters. Fantastic. if there's nothing else you learned out of lockdowns, it was how to scooter. And there, we used to go all around the area. Fantastic fun with them. And like all learning, and any of you who have ridden anything or been on anything with wheels know there are some unintentional learning consequences when you hit the asphalt. Yeah, well, that's rite of passage, isn't it? Children would fall over and skin their knee, and they'd look at me, and I was saying, well, you know, we're 3 blocks away from school. They got it. And there was no crying much and complaining to mum. So that was a good thing. We had, as I say, in Bubble School, we saw teachers doing really creative things, great learning, and what a refreshing thing it was away from the heavy-duty curriculum, and a lot of teachers damaged by the narrow focus of national standards, which still lingers in schools. So I thought that was one of the greatest times I'd actually had as a leader, seeing all these things going on, even if it was under bizarre circumstances of bubbles. A couple of little things. Parents. You know what? We had to keep parents that were out of school. That is a good thing for many times. It makes your mornings go a lot easier. And I'm not being cruel, but children's independence grew tremendously from lockdown. And I'm thinking, you know, you don't have to come into the classroom, you don't have to put Johnny's bag up, you don't have to make sure that he's got his lunch set up, and they do it. They sort it all out for themselves. And that is something we've tried to keep going, because it's actually easier. Sure, if you're a parent, you're genuine, you need to come into school and see the teacher and myself, fine. But that was one thing that some parents grappled with, you know, that I have to say goodbye at the gate. It's 20 metres from the classroom. I've really got to get that 20 metres. I've got to close that gap. No, you don't, ma'am. Where do we got? Progress, I guess, because you know, we're in a pretty esteemed area here. If you engaged at school some way or other during any of these lockdowns, your progress probably will not have gone to hell in a handcart like is portrayed by the media and these other people that worry intensely about children. Children have learnt a lot, many of it unintentional, many things that we think we don't measure properly through testing and some of the regimes we use in school. And growing in confidence, even learning how to manage this is been good learning for them. What we've seen online with some of our online classes and what children can do at home with a bit of guidance has been phenomenal. And there's been some phenomenal parents that have assisted this too. Just because we're Decile 1, it doesn't mean our parents don't care. They've just got a lot on their plates in many ways. And children have been very proud of their stuff because they share it. You know, there was a child that, you know, you would have done this as children. You put the glasses of diminishing amounts of water in and you play the xylophone. Kid decided to do this and he sent me a video clip of it. Wonderful, isn't it? Not in any curriculum or teacher driven, just something he decided that he wanted to do. I think that's been good. But on our formal aspects, if you've been engaged in some way or other, your learning has not been seriously diminished. But there is a long tail of people that haven't been able to engage, and that is a concern. There is work to be done, big time, in that area. If your children are in new entrance year, 1 and 2, then I think they've missed out on huge chunks of foundational learning. You know, for some of them we joked that they'd seen a book, but only in digital format that the teacher had read on the screen, and that's going to take a fair bit of rebuilding. But I think it may be faster than we imagine. I think children are more resilient. I think my 20 minutes is up. I could ramble on for a long time, but I know from when they tell me to shut up at school assembly, you know, I can read the room. They've taught me to do that. I'm going to leave you with one story. It's a true story, and Sylvie knows this because Sylvie was there. Not wearing pink, because that would have, not in the current get-up. Sylvie came to my office the other day, and we were chewing the fat about a few things, and in comes this little boy. Atu, his name is, and he comes in. Now he's 6. He just gets to the top of my desk, and he comes in with his book. And this is great because I don't want children to think that you only come to see me for the bad things in life. You know, sometimes you do. Sometimes we do have those conversations still, and I'm sure they're unpleasant for children. But that's what we call a course correction. But anyhow, he's come for the reason. He's been sent down by his teacher, and he's got his story. It's all about a ladybug, and he wants to read me a story. So there he is, sitting opposite me. Sylvie's in the background. So I said to him, okay, off you go. And he goes, there, the finger, the ladybug, such and such, and I saw it on the tree, and oh, I don't know that word, I've forgotten it. And then it goes on. And lovely for a little boy. So I said to him afterwards, well done, you know, you get the obligatory sticker with the sparkles, you know, that's you know, still works. I said to him, so which class did we put you in this year? He says, oh, Mrs. H's class. I said, oh, I know Mrs. H really well. And her full name's Mrs. Hoodemaker, but it's a little bit hard when you're 6 to get that out of your mouth, so they just learn Mrs. H. And I said, okay, is she a good teacher? Oh, yes, he says, yes, she's a very good teacher, right? And is she kind? Oh, yes, she's very kind, yeah. I said, is she pretty? And he goes, nah. And he walks out. Look, you've been very generous. Thank you very much for the breakfast. As I say to my staff, kids never get up in the morning to and think, oh, it's Monday morning, I've got to learn 20 spelling words this week, yippee, and all my first consonants starting with C. No, they don't. They come to school for the good things, and we've got to give them the good things. They will do the hard yards for us when they do. I came here for the breakfast, not to give a speech. Thank you. Oh, so you want some questions?
Yeah, we have some questions in the room.
Yeah,
Sure
okay.
we do.
Yeah, yeah.
As an after-dinner speaker, is your diary fairly empty or?
Talk to my agent. Yeah.
Yeah, and tell me, in primary school, do you still teach times tables?
Yes, we do. And it's one of those things that people... Yeah, there's been some of those things you just need to know. There's 100 basic words. I am, it was, you know, that you need to learn to read. How you learn to read them, as long as by moral means, is irrelevant. So if you learn to your times tables by chanting them, singing in the shower, counting on fingers or doing whatever, you just got to know them. The understanding that, you know, 3 times 4 is 3 groups of 4, that can come later. You've just got to know that it equals 12. So not in this curriculum, the previous one, there used to be only one end point, and it used to be at the end of, let me think, I'm getting, you know, still been around a while. I think the end of standard 2 or year 4, that you had to know all your times tables. Yeah, you still do need to do that. We still need to teach them, and you can still teach them directly. You should be teaching them directly. So it went out of fashion because it was considered the wrong way to do things. You just got to know them, because you won't go much further in maths without them. I'll tell you that now. And it's the same like those 100 basic words. You've just got to learn them, however you do, whether it be writing it in paint or sand or something or other like that, or saying it, and you've just got to learn them. Yes, ma'am.
I picked up on your comment about children learning independence. I think that what you noted with kids being dropped at the gate, I had the great privilege to be dropping my 2.5-year-old off at preschool
Yes.
for a week or so, 2 weeks ago. Those children are the new cohort coming through. They don't know any differently, and it must change the teachers' lives because they get straight down to stuff. So I think it's worth keeping parents on the other side of the gate.
My father he couldn't start school until he was 7 because he had to ride the horse down the Turrakina Valley for half an hour to get to the school. I always remember that. He had a time off because he fell off the horse and broke his collarbone, something he remembered till the day he died. But it's true. I think
teachers have to deal with far too much from parents. What's your reflection on that?
Look, sometimes the conversations are good. It depends what they are about. Our community, I think our parents are pretty straight up. You know, sometimes you get them in the office for all sorts of things that mightn't actually be to do with school. You know, they just need someone to talk to. It's quite scary. In this lockdown, you know, I had the most phenomenal staff meetings, by the way. You know, everyone attended because we were all online. But in lockdown, there was this, the information sharing and was fraught with some difficulties and misunderstandings. We got a briefing every week or twice a week, or whenever something hit the fan. So it would come to me, and I would share that with my staff, or Tracy for the community. But there was people would ring me up and say, "Look, you know, what about this and this and this? Have you found the cure yet?" No, I haven't. I'm only telling you. I don't know any more than you do. But people wanted that reassurance, and sometimes the school is the vehicle for that, and not only during COVID, but for many other times. If you feel safe and the relationship is strong there, I think that's a really nice thing to think that we've achieved with our community. But I can't solve those problems. I direct them to other ways. It's not you know, I'm an expert at reading, writing, and maths, but you know, those other things, we've got people that will deal with that. But yeah, I think there's some, as I say, there's been good things come out of this for everybody. Yeah. Great. One more question from the lady that got me here.
Richard, we had a mandate from the government saying that all staff had to be vaccinated.
Oh, right.
How did you deal with that? That must
Yeah.
be
Yeah, I live in a
multicultural staff.
I live in a PC world. Yeah, the mandates were quite a big thing in education. Well, they're a big thing in many sectors. I remember reading all that and thinking, oh, okay, this isn't of my making. This isn't of, you know, I sort of get where they're going with it, but it's really simple. You know, you don't do this, you don't have a job. So rather than sugarcoat it with them, our staff, I just got them in the room and said, look, if you want your job in 6 weeks' time, you've got to do this. Simple. And I said, don't come and talk to me about it because I can't do anything. And really, you may have a view, but I'm not interested. And it sounds rather harsh, but it worked. We went through this, and I thank my staff profusely because the rigmarole of people not vaccinating and what you had to do from an employment perspective, and believe you me, the employment landscape is, you know, fraught with traps and bad outcomes if you get it wrong, was unbelievably bad. But my staff all did this. I know other principals did not have, and look, if people had personal views on it, I accept that, but I just couldn't employ you. And so we just did that very, very quickly. And it was good. And that's everybody. That's everyone from your caretaker, groundsman to, you know, secretaries, everyone that when it was on site. Yeah, they're very happy. Yeah. I didn't get into the thing whether it's a good thing or not. You just sort of have to do it. Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Perfect.